Hello and welcome to Soul Love with Kimness. I am Kim van der Sande, your host, and I'm super excited to share another episode of Soul Love with you, where we share inspirational and empowering stories from the heart. We talk about the beauty and the shadows as both are part of the ascension journey, to remind you that you are powerful, you are magical, and to have trust in what you feel to be true deep within. Enjoy this next episode of Soul Love. Before we start the next Soul Love conversation, I want to invite you to check out my amazing book, Activating the Flower of Love, a sacred guide for manifesting your deepest desires and highest calling. This sacred book, filled with powerful tools and activations, will guide you to open your heart to the beauty and wisdom within you, empowering you to create the life you deeply desire from the foundation of love. You can find Activating the Flower of Love in all the major online and offline bookstores in ebook or paperback, or you can check it out through my website, kimness.nl, where you can also discover the different ways of working with me and the latest updates on new starting programs. Enjoy this next episode of Soul Love. Welcome everyone to a new episode of Soul Love, and today I have the honor to share sacred space with my soul sister Tara Preston, and I welcome you within this sacred conversation. I'm really looking forward to share your vibration, so welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to deepen into this space and see what comes through.
Yeah, me too. It's really beautiful. And I always love to start with, I like your butterflies as well in the background, transformation, but I always love to start like, what was your big, in your life, a big pivotal moment where your transformation started, where your process of awakening, or what sparked your soul to step in the space where you are now to empower women in the way you do. So.
Well, I think like most of us, there's been several pivotal moments. But yeah, I think there's been two though that come to mind. And one was definitely around the age of 21. So I'm 46 now, and left home from, a broken home. And I had two parents with a lot of trauma and a really hard upbringing. So when I left home, I felt pretty numb and disconnected. And as a young woman, I still kind of had that dreamer in me, and I was searching I wanted to find like my work in the world and my place in the world, but also kind of like this, like, well, what's my purpose in the world? And so it was at that time where I actually came upon Christian North's book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. And I had this subtle knowing that working with the moon cycles was important. And at that time too, if you think 26 years ago, there really were not a lot of people talking about syncing your cycle with the moon. That was relatively new. And so for me though, it felt important. And I used the lunar cycles for a year or two to really start to heal. And, during the new moon or my bleed time, I would dive into journaling and creativity. And I would feel like I would pull another layer back and heal another layer and get clearer on who I was. And that kind of started to open up the healer's path. And I started studying energy healing and all the things, and actually found makeup artistry as a calling at that time. So beauty did really speak to me. And I didn't even really know why. I didn't even really wear makeup at that time. But I was drawn to it. So that was kind of the first initiation. And I ended up spending a good 13 years in the beauty industry as a professional makeup artist, holding space. And my approach was actually authentic beauty and natural makeup artistry. And so much of it for me was about holding empowered space for women to deepen into, to connect to their authentic beauty, to bring forward their sacred feminine essence. And at that time and over the years, though, I still seen and witnessed a lot of what I felt was disempowerment. I really wanted to understand. I felt like there was deeper we could go in terms of what our beauty meant to us as women. And so it was right around that 13-year mark where I was living in the city, and we'd been there for 13 years, and I was pregnant with my daughter, and just my life at that point didn't fit. I just was it's not me anymore. There's things missing from the industry that I'm in. I want to go deeper. I want a different kind of freedom,
Yeah.
So at that time, we actually moved from the city and took kind of like a leap of faith to the country, like, like far away from the city, made this move. We found this little acreage and this house that needed some work, and had this like new baby. And we started our life, our kind of chapter 2 life at that point. And I'd found the Akashic records, which was so beautiful because it offered kind of like the deeper connection to the essence, the soul of who we are. Yeah. And so, yeah. And at that time, still, it was really about connecting women to their wisdom, to their beauty, to their truth, so that they could live more free. But it ushered in that pivotal point on my soul path too. That was a long answer. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful, as you shared also, like sometimes our soul is guiding us in a direction we don't really yet understand what it means. But I think it's also beautiful you feeling drawn to also do like makeup and all of that, because you were already like through that also discovering the natural beauty and how you could empower women, because you're so on the journey of empowering women, setting them in their true authentic power. And I think it's beautiful that as you share your story, how that was even on a young age already in there, but in different ways. Sometimes our soul gives us different experiences so that we can, it are like puzzle pieces. So I love, like for you, it feels like different puzzle pieces coming together in one, but it's not always to understand the total picture at the beginning, because then sometimes we don't leap or we don't take the steps, or so I love, it's true.
It was like, it's so interesting too that you say that. And it was always like that for me too, taking like a certification here, taking doing this, doing that, it would drive my husband crazy. Yeah. Like, now you're becoming a flight attendant. What? Like, and I always just allowed myself to do it and to follow the breadcrumbs. But I do remember at that age of 21, I was at this network conference. Oddly enough, I was young and I was sitting beside a woman who was probably in her late 50s. And she said to me, like exactly pretty much that. It's like the puzzle takes some time to come together. She said, but later on in life, it'll make so much more sense.
That's beautiful.
Yes. Anyways, and I just remember looking at her like, okay, just keep trusting. Like, just keep trusting. Yeah.
But I think a lot of people tuning into this as well. Like I see it with myself, but also with friends and with the beautiful souls I work with. Sometimes we have such, for our mind, such extreme experiences, and we are guided in such extreme ways to different experiences, to different opportunities, and it's really like you shared. It is trusting and knowing that in divine time, the possibility, if it's truly a guidance from your heart and your soul, if it's not per se guidance of your mind or of scarcity, but it's guidance that you to trust that. And I think especially for young people, for everyone tuning in, trusting that and leaping and knowing that you are guided, even though the route is not yet clear, or
absolutely. And I think that a lot of my work on behalf of the feminine, what I've also seen in working with the Akashic records, is that there's always these like pivotal initiations, and they generally fall within the scope of the feminine like life cycle. And so like that age 21 is like often very pivotal. Motherhood can be very pivotal. You don't even have to be a mother to have like the motherhood initiation, the entrepreneurial journey. And then often for women entering like the crone phase, like in their like 50s and 60s, is such a pivotal time. And it always calls us into kind of like, if we're listening and if we accept that, like that space of the unknown. So I love that.
And how do you infuse the cycles now still in your life? Because I love that. I think that's also beautiful. Like there's so much energy around a full moon and a new moon for everyone tuning in, how they can use those moments to, as you shared, heal yourself and empower yourself. And because I know also on Facebook you share beautiful things when a full moon is and a new moon, but maybe you can share a little bit about how you use that in your daily life.
It's still an important piece to me. And if I get away from that, like last year I had a couple of family emergencies and there was a lot of like caretaking. And so I did have a good like 3 or 4 months where I wasn't as rooted in my cycles. And I noticed it. I just was a little bit like, where am I going? Like not quite anchored in my experience. And so, but I also knew, come back to your cycle, come back to the wheel, the moon, and start finding your way. And I mean, that was an initiation as well.
I get that,
But also, the new moon or bleed time for me is like, it's a time of rest, and it's a really important time of rest. It's often how I'm supporting, other feminine entrepreneurs. But I go inward, I listen for downloads, I clarify the energy of what I want to travel with through the next cycle, right? The next feminine cycle. And then, just like you said, every lunar cycle does have its own energy. So of course, and, depending, for me, it's like I bleed during the full moon. So intrinsically, though, I listen to my own feminine cycle, but a week after that, the energy starts to pick up, and I've actually really beautifully been able to sync it with my business. Like, it's oftentimes where I'll start the launch of something, or I'll schedule like some type of like marketing event, and I'll kind of like ride that through the full moon, or like through the peak of my feminine cycle, and really give myself permission to play full out and get a lot of my to-dos off my list. And anything that wanted to come through for the next cycle, I really look at starting to anchor it. As my cycle starts to kind of come on that downward time where we often hit like PMS and we get a little bit tired, I start to close things out. And I also start to really look at like, what is bothering me? What am I angry about? What isn't serving me? What can I let go of? And really look at like closing the loop on the cycle so that I can be really present for what wants to come through at the beginning of the next cycle. And not only does it create sustainable energy and a lot of flow and a really deep anchored connection, it really creates, I think I just said this, but like, it's the sustainable energy that I find that's so important. And a lot of women, and maybe you know this for yourself too, but I find after 2, 3, 4 months of really overriding the cycle, you can feel the shift in your energy and the way that it carries you forward. So I think it's really important for us. But that's how I work with it, just on a general, but and then of course there's like the wheel of the year, and
but there are many, like as you shared also, when I now hear you share it in that way, it fits for me. Like also in such a period, there is a period of creation, there's a period of rest. So if you honor that, you have within a month time, you have both. So you honor your creation, your power, bringing things forward, and then resting, regenerating. But it's also what I love as you share, it's listening to our bodies, to the signals of our bodies, and also honoring the moments when there is a full moon or when we have bleed time, our filters are less. So to listen to what is coming up, like what are the irritations? Instead of us saying, no, I'm going forward and I'm not listening to this, I love that in that way, you're very in tune with your body, but also with your emotions, because there's wisdom within. So when you feel triggered, when you feel irritation, don't push it away, don't neglect it, go, as you share, deepen into it, because that is the growth. That's the way we are evolving, and not by pushing our emotions away, and not by honoring our body. So I love that. It's for me, something clicked into place. But
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. Listening is like such an important part of like the work that I do. Absolutely. But just to kind of take it a layer deeper, because this is what's coming through. There's an important piece that I was really kind of kept coming through my work this year, is like how we often were taught in society as young women, like even around the age of like 12, 13, 14, or wherever you started your cycle, right? Was to often override like what the body needed, or what the pop an Advil, pop a Tylenol, and like get on with life. And so it's often conditioned like out of us to like listen. And yet when we can listen and create that space to listen, we come into a new relationship with ourselves. And it's very much actually like how we start to heal the mother wound, and how we start to mother ourselves. So it
also reminds me of like in ancient times, like the red tents. There was a moment like that women would celebrate together. There were nice sweets, and they didn't need to do anything. They were just they were in their own cocoon of sisterhood, taking care of each other and nurturing each other. And we are now indeed, as you say, conditioned to just work harder, just don't listen to your body.
Override, pop a Tylenol.
Instead of like the origin was, we take a time off of everything to realign, and then we have the energy to go and do what we're meant to do again. So
totally, the inner and the outer, like it starts to create a lot of nourishing rhythm in our lives, which creates regeneration and sustainability. Right. Which to me is like the key to like new paradigm prosperity. It's like we need to be able to honor those feminine cycles. So it's absolutely.
But I'm also thinking like, even like my girls aren't at that age for a very long time yet. But to bring them like that awareness when they start doing that, and for women tuning in, and also their daughters. yeah, if we can bring that back, this ceremonial, sacred space of ourselves, because it's also a moment of death and rebirth. It's a moment of creation, a moment of to really honor the sacredness. And I think in your work that beautifully comes forward, like the sacredness of that moment. And
sacredness, absolutely. And the sacredness is such a part of, you know, healing shame, like in so many ways, and whether it's a connection to our body or our blood or our cycles. So I love that. You're bringing that forward.
And how are you using that in this way to empower women? Because you're really on the also mama revolution. So I love that. Like, how are you bringing that forward? And
were you asking me a question or okay.
I
thought you were. I was like, I gotta clarify.
It's also a compliment for our
thank you.
Yes, both.
How am I bringing that forward? Oh, so many ways. You know, this year specifically, a lot of my work was around, you know, the family matrix, and that's been a big part for a long time. But as women, you know, if we think about it, the way that the family unit and society has been conditioned to not honor the feminine, as a woman or a mama starts to really, you know, take the time to connect to that and to honor these cycles. And of course, when we start to create that sacred space and we go deeper into the essence of who we are, that's going to want to bubble up externally, and space wants to be made through the family matrix. And there's an opportunity for really big and beautiful healing. What often happens, though, is that the mama will kind of push up against old energetic dynamics in the family matrix. And so it can be really frustrating, like the change in the expression and the new way of flowing through the home there can be a little bit of like limitation. And so my favorite thing is to be able to get in there and to start to like untangle that. And it often happens, you know, between her and her partner. And then oftentimes there's a recalibration even between her and her children, as there's this space for the feminine upgrade in the home happens. But it's so beautiful. And so for me, oftentimes I'm journeying with, you know, women through like their evolutionary path and stepping into whatever the next leg of that soul's calling is. And it takes time, and we kind of like rework all those pieces to make space for her leadership, in life and business and in the home. That was a great question, but
it's important, because that is what I noticed within my own journey, but also when I journey with others. It's like the moment we elevate, our family needs to recalibrate, because we are elevating the total template of our families. And even if they like it or not, they're also being invited to elevate, and that can create resistance, and that can create frustration and irritation.
Kinds of things.
But I think it's also beautiful to share that when that happens, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're elevating. And then it's again feeling like, where are my boundaries, and where can I be compassionate to myself and others, but still hold space? Because I think I also noticed in my own journey as well, like it is important, like holding the space of love and light in the transformation, but also holding space while others not always wanting to elevate, but need to elevate with you because you have changed.
Yes, change isn't always loved by everyone, for sure.
No, it's not.
And I find, you know, so many, you know, women are really called to like their soul work right now. And it's not that the men aren't, by all means, but women seem to be, you know, leading the way right now. And so inevitably it's going to affect the family unit, but in such a beautiful way. I also feel, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, but you know, the family origin is affected. Like this, it's like it's all root system work. And so it's like we go to say yes to more of our evolution. If we think about the history of the feminine in the 5,000 years, it's been suppressed. And we start to bring that forward, and we start to bring the unique expression of our soul forward. It's like I've even seen that recalibration like through the family of origin, and it's such deep work, and it's not a fast journey. Like
no, it's not. No, it's not.
Like I'm like, it's sometimes, you know, I've been on the path for quite a while, but there's been a year or two where I can see some of the pieces like really shifting because it's so deep.
But then it's holding faith. And that's also what I always share. Like it's holding that anchor of the vision we hold, because it's not always going to be easy. But when we have that anchor and that strong rootedness in love, we can navigate whatever comes on our path, because it's not about only having bliss. That's not the journey. The true journey is feeling everything allowing everything of us to be seen, to be shown, and in that the elevation is. But then it's holding our anchor when there is storm or when there is resistance within ourselves or around us, or but it's I think that's the truth.
It is totally. It can be a big, there's a lot of, it can be very rewarding, as you know, right? There's times where I'm like, it feels like tears down my cheeks, like, wow, this is so amazing. I get to do this sacred work with these women, and I just feel so much abundance. But it's very deep work, and we're traveling what I call the evolutionary woman's path. And the importance of transmuting it, like holding it, but like the transmuting of it, which I also feel is like where like the womb work really comes in, because we can end up holding it.
It is.
And that can be difficult too. But
and it's pioneering as well. Like it is also a pioneering journey, because we are paving a way of new templates of being like a mom, being like a partner, being like a wife, being a woman in this time and space, and standing in our mission, standing in our power, but also like the different roles we have. And I don't know how that's in your own journey and but how do you navigate that? How do you, because it's like we have this mission, and a lot of souls tuning into this as well. We have this big mission, but how do you honor this mission, but then also honor the different roles we play in the new paradigm way, without falling into the old way of I'm just overgiving and I'm just doing everything, but I'm neglecting myself. And that are the
well, I think that's the journey. I think that we often start in a very heart-centered way. I know I did. It was like around self-love and connection to heart and connecting to essence. And I started to understand my needs as a woman, my wants. I started to place boundaries around that. And then I started to get clear on like a higher vision that was coming through, when I had a real sense or vision of what the new paradigm was for me, and just a burning desire to really take a stand for that. And then over the years, it's just really been about the faith and the belief that this is the work that I'm here to do. And it's really, and I know, but as the layers come up, we peel them back. And we continue to have the conversations, and we continue to, I've been with my husband for 24 years. So there's been like a lot of evolution in the scope of our relationship, and sometimes like a projection of like, that's who I was. Right. And so me understanding who I am and being able to uphold that and being able to really lock that identity in for me. Right. And then having people like, like adjust and really claiming that for myself. And sometimes those are power moves, and sometimes there's ripples, and we get better at knowing how to hold ourselves through these really pivotal moments of claiming our own path. But I also have to say, though, I've had a lot of support, and I feel like that as, people who give, I give a lot, but I also like have learned to receive a lot, and having people space hold for my transformation. And I love navigating transformation. I don't have a problem of navigating the unknown, but I also like to feel held and supported. And I think that's a really big piece. Too,
I love that. It is. Yes.
Right. It eases the journey. It's nice. And it really builds our receiving muscle, which is a big kind of part of healing our feminine, is knowing that we don't have to do this all alone. It's not like muscling through it. Right. It's being able to like lean into sisterhood, or leaning into having a guide, space, hold, and just allowing ourselves to be witnessed too. So
I love that. Those are important keys. Like but also, I think for a lot of us, like I'm also consistently learning in that, being able to receive and being able to also, like what I notice, like the more you step up in this new paradigm way of leadership or navigating the new earth, it is also about vulnerability and really allowing every part of you to be seen, but also be witnessed. And that is also receiving, like being really open to, okay, this is who I am, and here I can use support, because we all have blind spots. We all have parts where we are not allowing ourselves to fully be seen. And then it's beautiful that we have beautiful souls around us that can hold space for us in those transformations, because that's also the new earth. It's not I need to do it on my own. It is about being able to ask for help, for guidance, for support, so I love that.
Connection and community. Absolutely.
It is. And through that, we also learn a lot, because that is also what I know. It's also within my group offerings. Like there are a lot of wounds around sisterhood. There are a lot of wounds about community, but being willing to step in that space in vulnerability allowing whatever comes up to be seen, to be loved, is the way we grow, so that we as a collective can rise, instead of like the old collective system is like we need to do it alone and we are against others. No, it is us together elevating. And okay, we have our vulnerabilities and we have our emotions and whatever comes up, but if you can truly, from unconditional love, hold each other in that space, that is so powerful and profound. So I love that you shared that as well, because that's so an important
powerful. Yeah, thank you for adding into that.
Dating. Yeah. If there was one thing you would give to the listener, or an advice or a story or an inspiring, what would it be? What would you?
Well, I think that the feminine in general, like when women are called to, I call it like, it's like the feminine evolutionary journey, because it is the journey into soul expression, but also more of our feminine power, is that often what happens is we're very conditioned to wait for permission to make our next move, or to show up more powerfully, or to use our voice in a certain way. But I would just say it's safe to choose you. Like if you're on the edge of like what it means to put your needs, wants, vision or desires first, give yourself permission and just know it's safe to choose you. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. And is there one thing you can say, like maybe how do you do that practically, to give advice in a way, like what can be a first step to fully say yes, or to empower that and bring that into the world?
I think it's actually just choice, but you have to have the clarity on what it is that you need, want, and desire. And that's about, claiming sacred space and getting to know what you want, what you desire, what you need. Right. And that's coming into that deeper relationship with ourselves. But even then, oftentimes women will hit that edge of like, okay, so I know this, but like choosing this is going to feel weird. It's going to bump up against what people expect of me. So it is. And sometimes we just don't know that it's like up to us to just choose it. Yes, like the choice becomes like the most powerful first kind of like step. Yeah, especially as givers, it can be all of a sudden it's like, oh, I do know that I want and need that, but now I'm in this giving pattern. So it's like coming back to that space of like, no, I choose me. Like, this is safe. I choose me. And then maybe it's like looking for support. Maybe it is like looking for someone to hold you through that process, right?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yeah, it is, because it's shifting so many years of doing something else. But it's also, I love as you share, because that's an important key, because when we take it, and that's what I noticed with myself, when I take good care of me, magical things happen. And also my surroundings, everyone I co-create and work with, they benefit from that as well. And that's the paradigm shift. No, like before we were taking care of all the others and then ourselves, but we can take even better care of the rest if we are nurtured. And I love that. And it's deepening into I share that in my book, like it's deepening into our desires, because then if we really know what our desires are, we can hold as an anchor. So when there is storm, we still have that anchor, and allowing ourselves to have joy. I think that's like also, as you share, joy is such a, it's uplifting. So if you don't know what your vision is, follow your joy, follow your excitement. And where does it lead you? And even if it's just drinking a beautiful cup of tea in the morning with beautiful music in your own, but gifting yourself those little moments. And
yes, I love that. Absolutely. Beautiful.
Yes, I love, but everyone's tuning in, like even like it doesn't matter if you're male or female, but tuning into the cycles of your body, the cycles of the moon. It's so important. And I love, as you share throughout the whole the whole talk, like it gives so much empowerment, because you're honoring your body, you're honoring your emotions. There are, in that cycle, there are moments of releasing, of creation, of allowing yourself to be. So there are so many gems in that share. So thank you for sharing your frequency, your wisdom, your magic. And if you want to know more about how you can work with Tara in different ways, just tune in underneath this audio and video. And I just want to thank you and everyone tuning in for sharing this sacred conversation, and honor yourself and find your joy and whatever brings you spark, and stand as you share in your light and in your power. So thank you for being here and sharing sacred space.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you in the next Soul Love podcast. Bye. Thank you for joining this episode of Soul Love. If you want to find out more about what we do, you can find it below. And I'll see you in the next episode. Much love.